Hey everyone, I'm Armin Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Alces Bodyguard. When Alces' pet grew up, General Alces decided to send him on his own missions, thus parting ways with him. However, the general knew he still needed someone to stay by his side, so he took a piece of his own bark and breathed life into it. That's how Alces Bodyguard was born. I was wondering why he looked almost like General Alces, and so that's a really cool story. So here you have Alces Bodyguard, and I believe he's the last bodyguard. So let's see how he compares to all the other bodyguards. First of all, he's a nature monster, and there's currently 37 nature legendary monsters. And in terms of books, I believe the only one he's in right now is the Team Wars book, so he doesn't have that much usage as far as Team Wars. But with that being said, let's jump into the stat analysis. His power is 3476, which puts him in 9th place, tied with Nadiel the Pyromancer. So it's actually a pretty good power stat in the nature category. And as far as life stat, 37,699, this is actually the second highest life stat in the nature category, second only to Okinawa, who has 41,319. And that's right, he has a higher life stat than even the Nemesis monster, Nadiel, all versions of him, so that's really cool, even more life than All-Star the Brave. So he has a pretty good power stat, an amazing life stat, and lastly, as for his speed is 3388, which puts him tied for 23rd place with monsters like Apex, Golden, Clivia, Nemestrinus, and Sylvanus. But don't worry, if 23rd place doesn't sound that good, the speed stat itself, it's actually the 8th highest speed stat, so take it however you will. Overall though, I would say he has a really good power, an amazing life, and a decent enough speed. Oh man, it's hard because it is a little lower than average. But then again, he's not a deny monster, he's not even really an attacker. I guess you could attack with him, but he's more of a supportive monster, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Alces Bodyguard has the trait Hardened, which makes it so all status effects have a 20% less accuracy against it, which I've said multiple times is really the best trait to have for your average monster. Considering he's one of the bodyguard monsters, one of the general related monsters, it would have been nice if he had tough, but hey, we'll take hard. This makes it so he has a 20% chance to not get hit with control effects or just any negative effect in general, which is really nice considering the vast majority of negative effects that there exist in the game. So overall, just in a really quick snapshot, I really like this monster. He's appearing to be pretty darn good, but let's see if his skills can match up to his stats and his trait. So moving on to the ultimate skill, we have Falling Tree in the Woods. Deals insane special damage to all enemies, applies stun to all enemies. 75 special base damage, that's awesome, and it also stuns any enemy monster that survives. So it really depends how you're going to rune this monster. If you rune this monster with a team speed rune, with 3 team speed runes, then you're not going to be dealing too much damage with the ultimate. But if you decide to give this monster a rainbow build maybe, so 1 strength rune, then he could deal some significant damage, maybe potentially enough to kill the enemy monster, assuming your monster goes 3rd in the turn order. But even if you don't kill the enemy monster, they will be immobilized, they will be stunned. So as far as the ultimate goes, I really like it, it's pretty good on this monster. Moving on over to skills group 1, we have Blossom Protection, applies increased healing to itself, requires cooldown. I don't think this skill is worth it, but now I'm wondering why I even mention it. The one I did want to talk about is Backwood Rage. Applies taunt to itself, requires cooldown. 21 stamina costs 2 turn cooldown. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because of the taunt skill on a 2 turn cooldown. The thing about bodyguards, and maybe this is a fascination I have, I love when bodyguards have taunt skills because I feel like they live up to their purpose. They're there to protect your monsters, they're bodyguards, so they should have a taunt skill. I really wish taunt skills had a 2 turn, that they would last for 2 turns, not just 1 turn, because a lot of time it feels like you do taunt 1 turn and then the next turn you set up a shield, but by the time your shield's up, you already lost the taunt, so now the enemy monsters are attacking your teammates, and it just doesn't work out. But maybe that's just a personal problem I have about taunt. I do like that he has one in skills group 1, and then you're going to see he has one in skills group 2 and skills group 3. So the cool thing about Alces Bodyguard is that he can legitimately keep taunt during like the whole duration of the game if you want him to, which is pretty cool, especially considering his really high life stat. But with that said, moving on over to skills group 2, we have Rose Protection. Deals very heavy nature damage to one enemy, applies increased healing to all allies. So this is pretty cool because all of your allies will have increased healing, which will, I believe it increases healing by 50%. It deals 55 damage, 19 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. Moving on, we have Woodland Range. Deals heavy special damage to one enemy and applies taunt to itself. Once again, another taunt skill, 45 special base damage, 24 stamina cost on the 2 turn cooldown. So this monster has 2 ways of taunting, one of which is just taunt, deals no damage to the enemy monster, the other of which is a taunt skill that deals 45 special base damage. Moving on, we have Antler Bash, which is just a 50 damage nature based attack with no cooldown. This is a counter to cooldown activated, but other than that, very basic, very vanilla. Moving on over to skills group 3, we have Lotus Mending. Applies increased healing to itself, doubles health pool to itself, requires cooldown. So this skill has a 4 turn cooldown, but you get double life for 2 turns and you get increased healing, an individual increased healing for the next 3 turns. So this skill could be really amazing if you have a monster that can heal. I mean, the double life in itself is awesome, but again, like what I was alluding to earlier, it's not like double life and taunt. If it was double life and taunt, that would be amazing, especially if he has team speed runes. He's most likely going to be going last, and he might even go, like, you might even have a deny monster with 3 speed runes that goes twice or 3 times before Alces Bodyguard goes once. So you really want to activate that taunt as soon as possible, and if the very first thing you do is set up double healing or double life, it's really going to take a while before you can actually use a taunt skill. So as much as I like this skill, it seems really good on the surface, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm really not. I think I would have been a bigger fan of it, aside like if it did a taunt skill, if increased healing results for the team, I would have liked that a lot more, because then you could take advantage of like relics that heal. But then for Lotus Mending, the increased healing is just for yourself, whereas in Skills Group 2, Rose Protection, that's for your whole team. So that's just something to keep in mind. The next skill we have is Forest Rage. Deals moderate special damage to all enemies, applies taunt to itself, requires cooldown, 40 special base damage, 29 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown, and once again you get taunt. So this monster has 1, 2, 3 taunt skills that you can utilize. So for 3 whole turns, or until 3 of Alces' whole turns, you are going to have taunt if you want to run all of those 3 skills, which I think is pretty darn cool. And which is why I'm saying, instead of having Lotus Mending, instead of relying on this to double your life, maybe you can just stack a life rune, maybe 2 life runes, and then a team speed, and just have the enemies attack your monster, and you don't got to worry about giving them double life or even healing them, because he's going to be really tanky with his high life stat and then the life runes to add to that. So that's one strategy you might want to consider. The last skill we have is called the Cleansing Antler Smash. Deals heavy nature damage to one enemy, removes all negative stat effects from all of your allies. I think this is a must-have skill. 60 damage, that's pretty powerful, 32 stamina cost on a 1 turn cooldown, and it removes negative effects from your whole team. I always love skills that do this, considering how many negative stuff can happen to your team. Now, going back to Lotus Mending and Rose Protection, it kind of sucks that this monster doesn't have his own individual healing skill. I'm going to assume, I don't know what the relics are on this monster, but I'm going to assume it might be the essence, it might be something that can do a team life recovery. Like, I think Alces can hold the essence, where the major healing essence, I believe it is, where if any of your allies' life drops below 50%, he can heal by X amount of HP depending on the level of the relic, which could be really useful, especially with increased healing. But overall, like, that aside, if I had to choose the best skill set for this monster, it's kind of tough. It really is kind of tough. First, I think we should talk about runes. There's different ways to rune this monster. I think you could always go 3 team speed if you just want a monster to supplement your deny monster and your attacker. You could go 1 life rune and 2 team speed, which I think is one of the better routes, because you really want to capitalize on his high HP stat. Or you can even go rainbow, and instead of giving him an individual speed, go team speed. So 1 strength, 1 life, and 1 team speed. And the reason I say that is because when you look at his skills, first of all, he does have a pretty good power stat. Then he has a 60 damage skill right here on a 1 turn cooldown. He has a 40 AoE special based attack, and then Woodland Range, that's just an extra 45. So that's pretty cool in itself. So those would be my 2 recommendations: a strength, a life, and a team speed, or just 2 team speed and a life. And in terms of what the best skill set for this monster is, I would definitely recommend Cleansing Antler Smash and Woodland Range. Those 2 I would put as must-have skills. After that, you're really free to choose. You could run both the taunt skills if you want to. If you're only deciding between one of the taunt skills, well, if you're running the strength rune, definitely run Forest Rage. If you're not running the strength rune, then maybe you could run Backwood Rage. The main difference being what you're after, right? With Forest, you have a 3 turn cooldown, whereas with Backwood, you have a 2 turn cooldown. So maybe you might get a better usage out of Backwood Rage. But I mean, in a game, you could also do Woodland Range on turn 1. On turn 2, do Forest Rage, meaning this would still have a 1 turn cooldown. And on the next turn, do Cleansing Antler Smash, which means by the next turn, you could finally do Woodland again. So maybe you don't need double 2 turn cooldown. I don't know, like, do games even last that long? It really depends. So for sure, run Cleansing Antler Smash, Woodland Range, and then after that, pick one of the taunt skills or both of the taunt skills. Assuming you pick Forest Rage, well, then it's up to you. I would say Rose Protection or Lotus Mending, depending on the relics he has. Rose Protection might actually work better. If he has a relic that can heal your life, your team's life, then definitely go with Rose Protection. That way they can capitalize on increased healing. If you don't have one of those relics, which I can't imagine this monster not having something like that, then I guess Lotus Mending would be more useful because of the double life. But I don't know, I'm just not convinced I like this skill that much. I do like the no stamina, so if something happened to your stamina, you can at least double your life and increase your healing, which is pretty cool. But I don't know, it really is up to you. But once again, the 2 skills I could definitely say for sure are Woodland Range and Cleansing Antler Smash. After that, you're free to choose whatever you want. And that is going to conclude this analysis on Alces Bodyguard. Now I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? I'm still trying to make up my mind. I love that he has a bunch of taunts. I love that he's a bodyguard with 3 taunt skills. That much I do love. So even in a team, he is usable. You know, you give him team speed, you give him life. Even when he goes last, he sets up that taunt, and now you're pretty much protected from all of the single hits the enemy monsters are going to do, which is awesome. But what's your guys' opinions? Do you like this monster? Do you not like him? In terms of a nature monster, how do you feel about him? In terms of a bodyguard, how do you think he compares to the other bodyguards? Whatever thoughts are going on through your guys' mind, please let me know in the comments below. I'm Armor Gaming. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.